So are you confused yet? And a good answer in this class is going to be, yeah, I probably am confused, and that's something we need to adjust to. That certainty, right, is boss. It's absolutely bitchin', but sometimes confusion and uncertainty is really what we can expect, and often we just need... How many of you are just skeezed out by uncertainty? And notice we differ in that, right? Some of us kind of welcome uncertainty. I want to go to someplace I've never been before and see what happens. Others, oh my God, I could never do that in a million years. And let us embrace our individual differences, because that's what makes us individually different, right? So the paradox of progress. Progress lets us enjoy more leisure time, right? But in our choices, but our perceived quality of life seems to be worse. And quality of life seems to be diminishing. And you know, part of this is that maybe choices aren't the best thing in the world. It really depends on the person. So how did all this happen? Well, social alienation or enemy has increased with progress. We might begin to feel a level of growing in isolation. And note, with the pandemic, with COVID, this is very much maybe the result of having to isolate ourselves from each other in an effort to slow the spread of this virus. Right? But have growing alienation. Maybe we feel less and less represented by those people we elect. Maybe we feel they're bigger hypocrites and liars, and that maybe we're missing out somehow. You know, we use the term 1%, and the 1% now is, you know, becoming 0.1%, and we see this tremendous disparity in wealth. And many of us might be feeling left out because of that. If someone threatens to, let's say, take away, defund Social Security, I'm like, well, you know, I started working when I was 14 years old. I'm 62 now. So how long have I been working? That's like 48 years. And the promise has been that I will pay into Social Security every year, and that money will be there for me. And right now there's talk about defunding Social Security. And I'm like, well, what the hell am I going to do? Because I paid in a lot of money on the promise that... So are the people in charge taking care of me, or are they not? Are they lying to me? Are they changing the game? And how the hell am I going to adjust to retirement with no Social Security? And at least I've been putting away. Think about the people who haven't been in the fortunate position to put money away for their future. What will they do? Right? But these are materialistic questions. I'm thinking about how will I live and what will I have, not necessarily does that equate to the quality of my life. Traditional sources of emotional security have been lost to a certain extent. In Psychology of Emotion, another course that you might want to take, we talk about a village hierarchy. And back in the day, you know, there was a village, and we were embedded in a village, a small village, and everyone knew everyone else, and the village leadership, right, could account for people. But there was a comfort to this for most people. We belonged, we were part of something, and support was nearby. We probably lived close to our family. For many of you, this might be the first time that you've been separated from your family as part of this college experience. And emotional support may be more difficult to attain under these circumstances. We got rapid cultural change. Shit changes more and more rapidly. Right? Mental demands, right? Choose life, choose a job, choose a career, choose a family, choose a fucking big television, choose washing machines, cars, compact disc players, electric tin openers, choose good health, low cholesterol, dental insurance, choose. And oh my God, I'm overwhelmed maybe perhaps by the number of choices that are available to me. Can I ever just take a breath and maybe have someone else decide what's for dinner rather than me have to choose it all the time? Okay. Choice can be wearing, right? And the relationship of choice to cognitive dissonance, obviously we want to think that we're good selectors, we're good choosers, but once we make a choice, then we can always have that uncertainty pop up. Did I make the correct choice? Might have the other choice been better? How many of you have questioned your choice of major? I know a lot of you are psychology majors. At some point you go, man, should I have been a psychology major? Or maybe even better, yeah, should I change my major? And then what will that entail? I was a major changer, right? I started with organizational psychology and a training and development minor, and then, you know, my circumstances changed, my schools changed, and it's like, that isn't offered anymore, so all the credits you put towards that ain't worth squat. So I got to do another 2 years of college because of my choice, right? And my making a new choice of place to live, which affected what courses I could take at what school. So, now, by losing your place in a closed world, man loses that answer to the meaning of his life. The result is doubt has befallen him. So the more choices can lead to more doubt that I've made the correct choice. And this is Eric Fromm, posited a pretty simple theory that people embrace authoritarianism because they don't like choice. The choice becomes overwhelming, it produces anxiety. At least if I have a totalitarian or an authoritarian telling me what the hell to do, I don't have to make choices anymore. Right? So my adjustment strategy becomes pretty simple. I just have to adjust to being told what to do. Right? Dealing with so much freedom and irrelevancy causes folks to choose one of these paths, and this authoritarianism is the dangerous one. And you can see right now that there's a lot of people who are thinking that authoritarianism is a great way to go in this country. Right? And that's because the anxiety of choosing is probably overwhelming them. Hey, sweetie, you came back, huh? So, destructiveness. We might strike out against the world, strike out against others to feel potent, right? So how many people feel impotent in their lives? And this is not sexual impotence, but affective impotence, right? That I'm just a cog in the wheel and I don't matter, right? And to feel strength and to feel power, then they lash out at others, right? They create competitions between teams, which are surrogate winning and losing, doing battle, that they don't feel they're actually doing in their lives, right? So maybe destructiveness. Or automaton conformity. That is, I'm just going to do as I'm told. I'm just going to be part of the crowd, and man, that's the easiest way to get through my life. So fashion, music, whatever it is, I just go with the flow, and I feel better because of it, because I'm not faced with all the choices, nor am I faced with standing out and having to defend the choices I make that make me different, which is a tough one. For you rugged individuals out there, think about how often you have to defend your stance or your position to those majorities that do differently than you do. And how do you adjust to that? So, perceived impotency can lead to perceived potency-enhancing reactions. Right? So, for example, the rise of hate groups in the United States. And people feel that all these foreigners are moving in, and this country is going to be different. They're going to bring different ways, and they're going to bring different things are going to happen. And so I'm justified in derogating these outgroups and limiting their access and in other ways kind of inhibiting their successful pursuits because I don't want them to change the world because I don't know what it's going to be like, right? So the hate group mechanism demonstrates a deterministic philosophical underpinning. That is, if you're born to this country, if you're born to this ethnicity, then you're entitled. And those that aren't. And they should stay the hell out, right? And we know the story. Maybe you hear the story spoken about from some of your family members. Maybe it's a story that is a narrative that you buy into. These links that I put in the lecture, you can go to these sites and you can explore them as you wish, right? So is it ever going to get better? I mean, this is really a freaking downer. This is the first, lecture in the course, and it's like, oh my God, this really sucks, man. I don't know about life. Will it ever get better? I don't know. And Alvin Toffler wrote this book in the 1970s, right? 1970. Future shock is the perception that there's too much change in too short a period of time. So imagine that your adaptivity curve is like this kind of slope, right? But the change curve, that requires the adaptation, is like this. So you're left in an ever-widening distance between your capability of adapting and your adaptive demands. My mom talked to me about this in the car one day. We were driving in the car, and she said, Mark, I'm glad I'm old and I'm not going to live that much longer. I said, well, Mom, why is that? And she said, because I don't think my capacity to change I don't think I have the capacity to change as much as the world around me is changing. That is, she feels further and further behind in her ability to change. And this is often the case for the elderly. And what Toffler is saying is that this phenomenon, future shock, is that at some point change will occur so rapidly that most of us will not be able to adapt. And he paints a very horrible future picture for us. Right? And it can be experienced at the individual level or at the societal level. And you'll see countries that their culture constrains them and they can no longer adapt to the world stage. That the world around that country is changing and that country ain't keeping up, and eventually then something occurs where the country loses its status, loses its ability, and becomes a has-been. The Roman Empire, the most significant empire probably in the existence of history, failed to adapt at some point and disappeared. So this can happen to any country and any culture. Look at all the iterations that China has gone through. And China is on the brink of being the world power and calling the shots. This far away at this point in time, right? So man has limited biological capacity for change, according to Toffler. And when this capacity is overwhelmed, then it's future shock. And this is an intense anxiety situation. So, in our adjustment endeavors, sometimes we need help, that we can't do it on our own. We look to others, we want advice, we want people to help us, we want to just step back and pause, right? Our next module, right, is going to explore self-help industry. It's the one after the next, right, is going to explore the self-help industry. And notice that your first assignment is to unpack a self-help book. That is, pick out a self-help book, and then we're going to analyze it. So you might want to check the assignment section on Carmen and look at your first paper. Remember, and I'm going to remind you several times, that you need to get the title of the book you're going to use approved. Right? So get it approved, send me an email and say, this is the book I want to use for self-help, and this is the book I want to use for the classic work. So about 8 or 9 of you have already done that. Kudos, right? And remember, we have no textbooks, so these lectures are your textbook. I will post the lectures, both video and just the PowerPoints, so depending on what you want, you might get tired of listening to me. I know they're long, and we live in a 5-minute attention span culture now. So whatever you need, let me know, and I'll do my best to fulfill it. And one way I adjust is I garden, and I take pictures, and I combine the two, and I love to teach, so for me this is kind of this huge blessing that I can combine all 3 elements into one kind of single, and I love cats, so there's the 4th element. Right, Penelope? All right, guys. I'll see you in a little while.